the one thing I want to say about vision is it doesn't exist. Okay, so like how a vision is always ahead of you. It's always what is to come potentially. It is future. It is not now. Like there is an aspect of what we do now creates future us and creates future company and creates future team, but it is not now.
Welcome back to the Culture Based Podcast. I saw Blake during the intro music run back and lock his door real quick so nobody interrupts him. I was just like, go. It was awesome. Welcome everybody to the show, episode 61. Today we're going to talk about building a team with a shared vision. Has to start with vision, and it's time we readdress that here on the show. But before we get into it, I want to remind you that we're here to help leaders know what they're about, show where they're going, and develop a scalable team to get them there. You can follow us on all the socials at The Culture Base, BASE. You can find us online at theculturebase.com. And loads of free resources for you at theculturebase.com/resources, including our free ebook. The Scalability Playbook is yours for absolutely free. 5-star reviews are rolling in from all over the country. Get your free copy at theculturebase.com/resources. All right, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
We're talking building a team with shared vision. So kind of a new, I don't say a new, but a little bit more of a structured format for our show from now on is we're going to kind of break this up into 3 parts. We're going to kind of define the problem at the beginning, and then in the middle, we're going to talk about some solutions, and then we're going to end every episode with some action steps. So if you're a person who likes to skip the ending, maybe reconsider that. But hey, go for 1.5 speed, 2 times, even 3 times speed, whatever you need to do to get the content. So the problem that we're talking about today is this vision piece, right? And many leaders struggle with ensuring that their team fully understands and embraces the company's vision, which leads to a lot of miscommunication, a lot of lack of clarity, a lot of lack of direction, and a lot of fragmented efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. And leaders are going to constantly struggle with communicating vision. And I think a lot of times it's because leaders are visionaries.
That's right.
And they think, and here's the problem with communication is I said it, therefore I'm assuming you get it. Problem is so much of what's happening in vision is up here. It's all happening in between these 2 ears, and it does not communicate through the voice. And what you're seeing, it's like these ideas of emergent mentalities. Like you've thought, hey, what if we do this? And then you're like, well, okay, cool. Then we'll add this and we'll add this and we'll add this. And you just did like 4 or 5 things. And then you go, hey, why don't we do this? And you start at number 4. Well, you gave no clarity to how you got there. And you're like, oh, it doesn't matter how I got there because I got there and now everyone just needs to be on board. False. Okay. Right. Big Dwight Schrute, false. Like this is when you've got to stop and help people know what they need to know about how you got to a certain place. You're gonna be happy that you've done this, because then when people are on board with digging into it, they're gonna be able to bring more to the game. Okay.
Yeah.
We've got to get to where we're communicating the vision clearly and consistently. Just hands down, we've got to get to that place. And this is the part that nobody's going to love. This takes time. Yeah. But the truth is, it takes time anyway. At one point in time, you're either spending more time on the backside in the midst of chaos, or you're going to spend time on the front side when it comes to explaining vision.
Right. Yeah. I think the misconception here with a lot of leaders is they don't see communicating vision as a learned skill. It is a learned skill. Vision comes naturally to a lot of leaders, right? So they associate communicating vision with that same naturality, but but it's not as natural.
Yeah.
And what Blake is saying too is the biggest problem that I've seen over and over again with leaders, I'm guilty of it myself, is that I have a clear vision up here, but in order to just because I've thought it doesn't mean that I've communicated it, number one, and it doesn't mean that I've communicated it clearly. Like Blake was saying with the layers, it's hard to paint done when you're coming in at version 4.3 and you're like, well, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So communicating the vision clearly and consistently is our first solution to this dilemma. And I just want to say it is a learned skill. It takes time, like Blake said, and it takes practice. You have to practice doing this, and you have to ask for feedback constantly of, is this clear? And not like am I clear, son? But like, is this like, help me help you?
Yeah.
Your Jerry Maguire hat. Help me help you
Yeah.
with this vision, how I'm communicating it.
Yeah. And the one thing I want to say about vision is it doesn't exist. Okay. So like how a vision is always ahead of you. It's always what is to come potentially. It is future. It is not now. Like there is an aspect of what we do now creates future us and creates future company and creates future team, but it is not now. And so if I said in 500 years, what vehicle will we be driving? What will we be doing? Will we be driving? What are those things? What do they look like? You would have to take time to flesh that out and to work through that. It doesn't exist yet. So you got to remember, if it doesn't exist yet, nobody knows how to do it. Nobody knows how to get there. So we've got to get to a point where we can stop, try to explain it in those layers. And I'm going to tell you, this kind of takes us to the next point. You've got to involve your team in this process. Because if the vision is worth its weight at all, it will not be on the back of one person. Okay. Right. If it's going to expand and do things that nobody can imagine, then it's going to take a lot of people to make that happen. Okay. So you've got to bring the team into the fold because they're stronger than you at some of these areas. You know, we'll be talking here in a couple episodes about delegation, and there's something to bringing in the genius of others to get to a better vision. And so if you think your vision is all yours and it's your little pet and pony and you're gonna pet it and it's nice,
love it,
you know,
care for it.
Well, don't go there. Bring people into the fold there.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. There's buy-in opportunity there too, as well, right? Like that's a great reason to involve the team. If you're like, hey, even if you are super narcissist leader where you're like, this is my vision and it belongs to no one else. Let's just paint worst case scenario there.
Right.
Even then, just bringing in the team enough to have some sort of ownership and buy-in should encourage you enough to want to like bring them in, because that ownership and buy-in is what's going to give that vision legs. The reason you're a visionary, right, and not an integrator is because you have the vision, but you don't really know how to get there. And so that's why you were at one point smart enough to bring the people on to help execute the vision. Well, they can't execute a vision that they don't understand, and they can't execute a vision that they don't feel some sense of ownership to. So bringing in the team involves them, helps shape the vision a little bit more. Yes, I know you maybe not be willing to do that, but it does create buy-in and ownership, which is a culture magnifier. Yeah.
Well, one thing I think's pretty crucial here is a visionary is only as good as the ideas they already have. Okay. They're only as good as the experience and knowledge that they have in their repertoire. And part of a visionary is that they can take what they have, put it together to come up with something new. But it's kind of like ChatGPT. It's only as good as the information that's already in it. Okay. Yeah. And so imagine vision being ChatGPT. You can take pieces that you already have here in between your two ears and put them into something, and you can come up with some pretty gnarly, weird things. But at the end of the day, what other people bring to the vision is more opportunity for understanding to add more components to the vision long term. So as somebody comes in and says, hey, have you ever thought about this? And like taking this approach, and I go, you know what? I don't even know what that is. And they say, oh, let me teach you. Here's what it is. And I'm like, oh my goodness, now I could take that and that and that. And like all of a sudden you're taking experience you didn't have to earn, understanding that you didn't have to spend tens of years coming up with, you're taking it off of somebody else to create a better vision. There is so much collaboration that happens there, but we got to take the time to slow down and say, I need, like, and a lot of times with vision, I'm not good at communicating. So I'm going to ask people to help me be a better communicator. So I'll tell them, hey, I need you, when I share this, I want you to either teach it back to me. I want you to explain it to me. I want you to communicate it to me in your own words. Don't use my words at all. Okay. Don't use my sexy business slang. Okay. Don't use that. I need you to put it in your own words and tell me. And that's when I start understanding I haven't communicated this well. I need to slow down so that they understand this.
Yeah. The next part to the solution is you need to connect roles and responsibilities to the vision. And this is where it begins to get the legs. Yep. This is where you're like, yes, that's why I brought you onto the team is to give this vision some legs a little bit. If your vision is just out there and it's completely separate from the job responsibilities and roles or job description of your team, then it's not a real vision. It's just it's a wish at best. It's a one-day hope for at best. You're not actually driving towards it at all. So connect roles and responsibilities to the vision. Next thing is you also want to set clear goals and milestones. Even if you're like, okay, I'm really having a hard time explaining this vision with clarity. If you can just give them the next right thing that gets you closer to that vision, that's enough. You don't always have to paint an end goal. Is it a perfect scenario? Yes. But as you're learning to paint that end goal, go ahead and set some clear goals and milestones right out the gate so that you know and your team knows when they have won and when they have inched even closer to that vision that you have in your head.
Yeah. One of the hard parts here, I think, is how much, because I think to say, go share your whole vision with every person in your organization is foolish. It's like going and talking about high-level financial understanding with someone who's never budgeted before. Can't do that. There has to be an iterative understanding to come to a certain part of the vision. Right. So part of the communication and leading by example in these things and setting clear goals and milestones, it has to come to a point of understanding who you're speaking with. And what I don't mean is, oh, you're not a need to know basis. No, that's not it. Okay, you're going to lose good working genius there if you don't have those right people. But what it is understanding, because I've been very careless with my vision. Okay, I've grabbed my vision and slapped people in the face with it. And that's not good. You got to slow down and say, is this person at a place that they can handle what I'm about to say? Or do I need to actually start in past vision that's led us to this point? How much do I share? I'm an oversharer. Okay. You've heard me on this podcast today. I've already just like dumped it all out. Okay. But part of it is I want people to join the vision. And so I'm like, let's go. Here's all this information.
Join the Blake train.
Sharing scares people. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of times I'm trying to make a change, and I will make a change now. And this is me like being a more mature leader. I will make iterative changes that I think my team has to take before they can take the bigger change. So I'll be like, okay, part of the vision is I want to be completely integrated like this, but I got to change behavior first. And I got to make sure people are okay with this behavior before I try to change a whole ecosystem. And so being a good leader and being a good communicator of vision is knowing who and how much to share and what to share in those areas. But it is not to say they're not at the right place for this. So we got to make sure that, like, if your leadership is where they are, they probably have gained understanding, right? Yeah. They've probably gained understanding at a certain point that I know where Blake's going in vision. So he's clarified, he's articulated the vision to me. I got a certain point of it. I maybe need him to still explain a little bit more, and they've gotten good to where they can say, Blake, slow down. Here's where I'm at. I don't know where you're at.
Yeah.
But here's where I'm at. And getting a good culture that values change and adaptation is really important if you're going to share vision. If your culture does not value change and does not value innovation, be very sparing in how you share vision, because it will overwhelm.
Yeah. So let's wrap up this episode quickly with some action steps. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna break it down, action steps for the leaders, for team members, and then for the overall team. So for leadership here, Blake, what we're saying that you should do just immediately is start working on clarifying and articulating the vision. Become a student
Mhm.
of that and practice, practice, practice. Hold a vision alignment meeting is another step too that you can take with your leadership team or mid-level management, whatever you have that reports directly to you. Just go ahead and hold a vision alignment meeting, and in that meeting, you're going to determine how each part of the organization fits in to that vision, how they play a role in executing that vision. And then lastly, you want to model the vision, right? You want to lead by example, make decisions and take action that aligns with the vision. Don't say you have a vision, but then by your actions, you're showing, oh, yeah, that's for later. But for now, no, that's confusing.
Mhm.
Stick with it. Stick with where you're headed. Model it by everything that you're doing and you're leading is leading towards that place, towards that vision goal.
Yeah. So for team members, so that's leadership. For team members, as we're focusing, we need to engage in vision discussions, which means understanding where people are, where they need to go, and the story or the growth that they're going to have to take to get there, which means it's not just always talking about the end vision. We can talk about that as a direction, but we need to help them grow in that. Part of that discussion is also creating that culture, the values change, values adaptation. That will not happen overnight if you don't have it. It's going to take time, but it's going to take conversations where you're valuing people's ideas. You're letting them speak their ideas. You're not shooting them down with the answer no all the time. Okay.
Right.
So we got to dive into that. Then connect their personal goals to the vision. Okay. If you're such a good visionary, that means you're a good connector. Okay.
Mm.
You're good at seeing how pieces work together. A lot of times, though, very similar to your vision, it stays up here in your head. You got to take it out of your head, put it on paper, or if you're trying to help people connect their personal goals to the vision, you've got to communicate their genius. You've got to communicate what they can offer this, where we're going, because people don't know that. They don't know how they fit into this. I see it all the time as we talk vision. Is the scariest thing for people is they quickly go internal and they say, oh my gosh, when this changes, am I going to have a home? Am I going to have a place? Am I going to dot, dot, dot? So that's where you want to be able to say, hey, I see this in you. I see this
Right.
genius in you. I'm an electrician. I'm not just telling them, hey, you're really good at connecting these two wires. I'm like, hey, that was really creative how you did this. Now I'm valuing a different part of that person outside of just the tactical thing. I'm connecting their personality, their gifts, their genius, whatever you want to call it, to what the vision's going to be. And then help team members then take ownership of the vision. Okay. If it's all your vision, bad news. It's only going to be as good as you are. And you might be great, but I'm telling you that I'm better with the people around me. Okay. And we can create something infinitely better than what I could create.
Yeah. So lastly, for action steps for the overall team, 3 things. Number 1, set vision aligned goals. If the goals that you are setting for your company or departments individually are not aligned with the vision, then your vision doesn't mean squat. Make sure your goals are aligned around that. Likewise, even a little bit more macro or micro than that, is create vision related success metrics. So all of your KPIs across the board from top to bottom should directly measure the progress towards the vision that you have. If not, again, vision doesn't mean squat.
Yeah, you don't value it. If
Yeah,
you don't measure it, you don't value it.
that's right. You got to put your money where your mouth is and say these KPIs matter because we blank, 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 right? Always. And then lastly, you got to celebrate the vision wins, right? Just like Blake said, and just being this electrician being a little bit more creative in the way that you got to celebrate that stuff because it's getting you closer to it. You got to, it's the age old phrase, right? Celebrate what you want repeated. It is 1,000% true. If you want those little baby steps towards your vision to be repeated, celebrate them often and publicly. Publicly celebrate them. Okay, cool. So that's the episode today for communicating vision Let's see. Next time we're back, episode 62, we're going to talk about, I can't wait for this one, scalability versus sustainability, how we can balance growth with long-term success. Can't wait to talk to y'all about that next time on the Culture Based Podcast.